Good morning, Australia. This is Chris Smith. It is Tuesday, the 25th of August. G'day, g'day. Good to have your company. I'm broadcasting live from the studios of Radio 2SM, and that's 1269 in Sydney, and through the Super Radio Network, which includes stations in New South Wales, Queensland, and also the Northern Territory. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the Castle of Common Sense. Okay, to the top five, and there is some serious commuter chaos in Sydney right now. We're talking bus stops with queues almost 500 metres behind on the northern side of the harbour. If you're trying to head over the bridge from the north, you might want to go back home because you're not going anywhere. Urgent repairs are underway after overhead wiring fell between Chatswood and Artarmon, bringing city-bound trains to a halt this morning. You can only get so many people on the metro service from the north and so many people on buses, which is why it's absolute chaos. Trains on the T1 North Shore line are being replaced by buses between Gordon and Chatswood, while the T9 Northern and T1 Western lines are also running at reduced frequency, so it's a mess out there too. Transport New South Wales is warning commuters to allow extra travel time. Well, there are a lot of people who haven't got to school and have not got to work. Now, let's get to national affairs. Labor has repeatedly promised its new capital gains tax changes won't hit super. But new analysis suggests millions of Australians could still end up paying more tax on their retirement savings. The Financial Services Council says the changes could affect $372 billion worth of super assets held through managed investment trusts, potentially costing members an extra $55 million a year. Now, the issue comes down to how these funds are allowed to use capital losses, with the changes potentially pushing the effective tax rate on some gains from 10% to 15%. That could mean up to $500 more tax for every $10,000 of affected capital gains. Gee, I tell you what, they're short on their homework in Treasury. One of Australia's biggest super funds, Colonial First State, is now calling for the rules to be changed, saying Australians shouldn't pay more tax simply because their super is invested through a managed fund rather than directly. And won't the managed fund industry be up in arms this morning? We've heard plenty about One Nation's surge, but now new polling has revealed what's actually driving voters to the surge on Pauline Hanson. Research involving 1,000 One Nation supporters suggests migration rather than the cost of living is the biggest issue pushing people away from the major parties. Well, surprise, surprise. Among One Nation voters who believe Australia is heading in the wrong direction, 39% point to immigration as a major reason. And there's a warning here for both Labor and the Coalition. The research suggests the voters who could potentially be won back want to see a credible plan to reduce migration. The polling also found 57% of One Nation supporters are worried Australia's culture and identity are changing too quickly, while 40% are concerned about pressure on housing and infrastructure. The major parties need to read that research today and read it well. Well, diphtheria was once considered almost eliminated in Australia, and now we've had 538 cases this year, more than 17 times the previous record. And while health authorities say cases have started to fall, there's another concern. Testing has also dropped, meaning the true number could be higher than 538. Now, the outbreak has largely affected Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities in the Northern Territory and WA, with around 20% of patients requiring hospitalisation. It's a terrible disease. It affects your skin, it affects your heart, your breathing. 30% in most cases end up with respiratory diphtheria. It can cause so many complications, blocked airways, damage to the heart and nerves, but it is vaccine preventable. But maybe what we saw during COVID and what we were told and promised during COVID, which has not eventuated, has caused so many parents to back off vaccination. Anyway, that's not a good sign. And in news from the United States, the pressure on Iran is escalating, but not on the battlefield. The US has announced new sanctions aimed at cutting off the regime's economic lifelines, while tensions are also rising around the Strait of Hormuz. The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the new measures are designed to sever every economic lifeline that sustains Iran, with Washington urging its allies to join the sanctions. Now in sport, Adam Reynolds won't be seen on an NRL football field again. He won't get a farewell, which he wanted, in any of these last two games that the Broncos have. The coach, Michael Maguire, has ruled him out of Thursday night's clash with Melbourne. The 36-year-old had hoped to play some part of the game, potentially off the bench, after completing training session on Monday, but medical staff were concerned his calf problems, which have been persistent, could see him break down during the game, and Maguire did not want to take the risk. That is so disappointing when you consider what a wonderful servant Reynolds has been to both Maguire's South Sydney and Broncos side. Why wouldn't you just give him 20 minutes? Amazing player, a once-in-a-generation kicker, as we know, but it brings down his 15-year NRL career, which included those two premierships. Reynolds played his final game 3 weeks ago. And Richmond's Mad Monday has landed the club in fresh trouble related to the Swans. Yes, vision is everywhere this morning of players whipping each other with beers in hand. Yes, backside slapping. 7 News obtained footage showing several shirtless players taking part in the antics, with one player even pulling his pants down and asking another to whip him. The AFL is now looking closely at the timing of the footage, particularly given what has just occurred at the Pullman Hotel in Melbourne. That is the state of play. In the Castle of Common Sense, we value your calls and your views, no matter which side of the ledger you sit on. You can step right up right away and have your say on 13 12 69. 13 12 69. On the guest list, our colourful libertarian John Ruddick MLC is on deck today. He'll be talking about the new tax on super, migration concerns, and his verbal stoush with the Premier, Chris Minns, over multiculturalism. It is quite entertaining. I'll play you the audio. I'll be speaking with Claire Pearson from the regional aircraft charity Little Wings over the issue of kids' health in the bush. There are some terrible statistics on this issue published by News Corp today, so Claire knows all about it and we'll talk with her. On the energy front, we'll be learning about thorium today. Thorium, the abundant metal, more abundant than uranium, which provides more power than fossil fuels and uranium, with zero CO2 emissions. Mark Finch is the expert, and he'll explain why thorium should be our next energy baseload alternative. Plenty on the program, including you, hopefully. 13 12 69. This is Chris Smith on 2SM and the Super Radio Network. Now, if you've been tuned into the news since Sunday, you'd probably think that Pauline Hanson's One Nation is in a tailspin. The mistake made by One Nation MP David Farley over his party's plan on migration numbers has been elevated to almost front-page status. The bloke's a newbie politician who got a number wrong, an important number, but that's been great fodder for the media in the last 3 days. There's also the coverage today of the latest Demos Oz poll, which shows the party's popularity dropping by 5 points in a single month. Meanwhile, left-wing lobby group Get Up is boasting a massive $600,000 war chest raised specifically to campaign against One Nation leading up to Victoria's November election. As I have long predicted, the mainstream media is having a field day with all this minutiae. They love nothing more than taking cheap pot shots at One Nation MPs, hyper-focusing on every stumble, gaffe or policy misstep. To those commissioning and publishing political articles, this is their latest sport. But while the media plays gotcha, they are completely avoiding the elephant in the room. Look past the daily headlines and look at the data. The recent Utting and Hawker poll in the Herald today exposes the reality the political establishment refuses to face. Migration remains the number one concern for One Nation voters. This isn't about administrative blunders or slick media training. It's about a deep growing anxiety across the suburbs and regions regarding migration numbers and the vetting of dangerous individuals entering our country, both of which have been out of control, and it's been all too obvious to those trying to survive outside the inner city. Polls will inevitably go up and down. Activist groups will always spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to silence dissenting voices. But none of this changes one of the key anxieties everyday Australians feel about their changing communities: strained infrastructure and national security. Just on that, even yesterday at the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission, they heard evidence of hundreds of thousands of dollars being given to a Muslim media group which invited hate preachers to the country and claimed that the government was faking incidents of anti-Semitism to save Israel, and we gave them $300,000. So the mocking of Pauline Hanson will not stop. Neither will the celebration of every minor setback. But what's also not going away is the public's attention on immigration numbers and the presence of dangerous haters where they live. It is real, and none of these anti-Hanson campaigns will make it disappear. Just a little bit more information for you on what was given as evidence yesterday at the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission. It heard some extraordinary evidence about the government's handling of visas and social cohesion grants. Social cohesion grants. Home Affairs gave Muslim media group One Path Network $308,000, despite it previously, underline the word previously, publishing a video claiming Australia had faked anti-Semitic attacks to save Israel, and later interviewing anti-Semitic influencer, a bloke called Sneeko. Sneeko was granted a visa, and that in itself is gobsmacking, despite his history of anti-Semitic and extremist rhetoric, and his visa was only cancelled after media reports highlighted it. Oops. Sorry, we didn't check him. The Commission also heard 2 radical Islamic preachers were granted visas too, before being deported following objections from the Jewish community. Oops! We didn't check who they were. Is there any value placed on a visa to come to Australia? Doesn't appear that way. Home Affairs Secretary Stephanie Foster defended the department, saying decisions are based on the information available at the time. Well, no, it doesn't. Decisions are based on the lack of information that you try and source. Have you heard of Google? I tell you, Stephanie Foster, it's spelt Google. All right? Now, New South Wales Premier Chris Minns is rightly backing calls to extend the commission by several weeks, saying it would be money well spent to address unanswered questions. There are so many unanswered questions in here, like can we get someone from government to answer why this stuff is so slack? And can we answer questions as to why you took money out of the counter-terrorism agencies and put it into protecting politicians? How about answering some of those questions? Chris Minns is entirely correct. The Federal Coalition is also pushing for an extension as the Commission enters its final week of public hearings. What a waste of time it was. Let's go to the open line. 13 12 69. Simon, good morning to you. Simon, are you with me? No, he's not. Has he jumped off the board or is he on a different line? I don't know. He did want to talk about the poly pedal. Simon, if you're listening, by all means, jump on our open line, 13 12 69, because I think I know what you were going to talk about. Last week, I spoke with Opposition Leader Angus Taylor about the poly pedal, and guess what happened? He's hit the pavement, Angus Taylor. Yes. Well, he was hitting the pavement anyway, riding very hard for 1,000 kilometres, but he's hit the pavement in a very different way, taking a very painful tumble during the charity bike ride through Queensland. He came crashing down, apparently, admitting that everything was aching after the spill. I said to him, what did I say to him? I said to him, have you practiced? Have you trained? Oh, I've had a couple of rides. So after all that talk last week about taking on 1,000 kilometres on a bike, we now know the real danger wasn't the distance, it was trying to stay upright. Wayne, good morning.
Oh, yes, good morning. Yeah, Pauline Hanson's off to the High Court or something over telling the court case about telling Senator Faruqi if she doesn't like the place she can go home.
Yep.
I left a couple of words out of that. Now, that could be taken as good advice. I mean, if you don't like the party, leave, that sort of thing. But how about all the protesters on the weekend and the school last week and stuff, and the school kids and everybody calling for her death, destruction, removal, and whatever? I mean,
about 10 to 100 times worse than what Hansen said to Faruqi.
Yeah. So where's the police? Where's the court case against them?
Yes.
And not to mention, was anybody arrested at the ABC for describing how Gina Reinhart was to be murdered and turned into a sausage roll?
Of course, no one. Of course, no one. Treating her like an animal the way that skit did, and no one gets punished.
What is wrong with our system where apparently if you're a white woman, they can say all sorts of nasty things about you, but if you're a...
Well, white and conservative usually gets you to become a target, yeah.
Yeah, but if you're a minority group or something, there's government legislation and the courts and the judges and everything there to protect you.
Yeah.
Now, I think if Pauline Hanson loses in the High Court, I think that'll say that will be a watershed. In my opinion, that'll be a pretty important moment in Australian politics.
Yeah, but what do you expect, Wayne? We have a situation where we allow men to go and play junior female sport. We have a situation where if you feel like you're a woman, that's okay under Australian law. We've lost the plot.
Yeah, we have, and we have football players mimicking our Prime Minister when they grope women in the early hours of the morning at a wild party, don't we? There's something about they were saying, "I'm just doing an elbow." That'll be the.
Maybe Pauline Hanson should get the tapes, and I think they have the tapes of those young kids who were calling for her to die and be killed and stuff, and maybe she should take a defamation case the same as Faruqi did, or an anti-discrimination case.
Well, yeah, that would be a tactic, I guess.
But she's too big for that, unlike Faruqi.
We live in Australia. People say all sorts of bad things about all sorts of people all the time, and we're supposed to just brush it off and get on with it. That would be a little bit un-Australian, but it would be understandable in the context and circumstances of the case to make a point. But you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying, and your point is well made, Wayne. Thank you very much for your call. Classic hypocrisy, isn't it? I'm glad Wayne spoke about that this morning. Okay, it is that time of the morning. Before I get to our power sources as of 7:30 this morning, before I get to the Australian Energy Market Operator stats, well, I have probably the biggest headline in terms of energy this month has come today. And it's about the reality of blackouts. Blackouts are now being predicted by AEMO, mind you, the Australian Energy Market Operator, to hit us right between the eyes in 3.5 years' time, well before all previous forecasts. And they're blaming Australia's AI boom, which understandably would have a lot of influence on the amount of power that we're using. So they're saying that the AI boom will put enormous pressure on the electricity grid. No kidding. Just as ageing coal power stations are starting to shut down. Yep, get rid of the baseload. No, we don't want CO2. Get rid of the baseload power. Let's just rely on the sun staying out 24/7 and relying on it being windy 24/7. Yep, that'll do it. The latest warning from AEMO is particularly serious for the state of New South Wales, where the Energy Market Operator now says the state could breach its reliability benchmark. You know what reliability benchmark means? That's code, you see, reliability benchmark. That's called blackout. It gets into the blackout zone 3 years earlier than they'd previously forecast. What, hadn't they heard of AI when they made the last forecast last year? They mustn't have. They mustn't have got that email. Anyway, AEMO had expected that to happen between 2033 and 34, but now says now says New South Wales could start running into reliability benchmark problems, that is, blackouts, from 2030 to 31. And one of the biggest reasons they're saying is the explosion in demand from data centres. Well, if we had baseload power instead of intermittent power, we wouldn't have too much to worry about. But there are now 225 data centres in development across Australia, more than double the 97 being planned just a year ago. AEMO expects their electricity consumption to rise from around about 5 terawatt hours today, 5 terawatt hours, to 34 terawatt hours by 2035-36. That is almost as much electricity as every household in New South Wales and Victoria uses combined. That's extra. Data centres are already consuming about 3% of electricity in the national electricity market, but that could rise to 13% within a decade. Around 15.7 gigawatts of coal and gas generation is due to close over the next decade. Gee, that's well timed. This is, of course, all part of the renewable transition that Chris Bowen has planned beautifully. So as soon as we need so much more terawatts of power, we just, at the same time, close down our baseload power. How clever is that? That's called Australian intellect. The Australian Energy Regulator is warning that if replacement generation, and have a listen to this, they're naming batteries. This is the battery power that gives you around about an hour extra if you're lucky. Firming capacity and transmission aren't delivered on time. So it's all got to be delivered on time. And as we know, wind is a dud in terms of investment, especially offshore wind. But Australians are going to, you know how this works, don't you? We will face, quote, higher prices and less reliable electricity. So we pay much more in our electricity bills than we do now. And at times you'll just have to live in the dark. I hate to say I told you so, but many of us who've been on this bandwagon for quite some time criticising the so-called renewable revolution have been saying this for decades. I've been saying this for about 15 years. We're going to get to a stage where the evangelism doesn't meet reality. And we're going to close all these baseload power stations and all of a sudden we're going to have no power because no one actually did a calculation on what we'll need, what we'll have and what we're getting rid of. And that's when we get into blackout territory and when every gigabyte of power is gold. And that means you pay a lot more for it. Forget about what you're paying now. That's cheap. As we get to 2030, we're going to have blackouts and your power is going to be like gold and it'll be priced that way. That's from AEMO, published in the Australian Financial Review, the Australian and the Daily Telegraph today. Well, what do you know? Simon, good morning.
G'day, Chris.
How you doing?
Yeah. Oh, not too bad, thanks. Just looking at the poly pedal this morning close to home at Gatton, where my brother lives. Angus is there pretty early, bright and early. I think it's pretty commendable what they're doing.
Oh, he's up already after falling over yesterday.
Yeah, he's resilient. You see, the resilience he's got.
Have you seen the scars, or has someone else seen the scars or bandages?
No, I didn't know until one of your producers told me he had a fall, but I think he's back on his bike.
Oh, how good's that?
Yeah, so I don't know. I was just thinking of the brand of the LNP. I don't know whether Scott Morrison did the Liberal Party any good, Chris. I think as time goes on, I think he's got a lot to do with the immigration that's coming to this country too.
Oh, he's played a major part in it because they, as well as the current government, realise this is the way to band-aid the truth about the economy. This is the way to increase revenue without having a productive economy.
Yeah, and it's pushed up all the housing prices, I would have thought. And, so I think Angus is trying to, and Tony Abbott are trying to recoup a bit of ground, which they could. Whether how much they make up, I don't know.
Look, he's coming up with some decent policies. I wonder whether the electorate is listening to him, though.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of key seats the seat in Ford in Queensland that they've got to win. But I don't know. I haven't written off. I think the Coalition, they're still in the race.
Yeah. I think those who want to back Pauline Hanson are doing so with their heart, but they've got to realise that's not going to get One Nation into power. The only way to get Labor out of power is to vote for the Coalition. That's just statistically how it will work because of preferences.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Good on you, Simon. Great to have you on the program. Let's take a break, get you a news update, and then we'll catch up with the one and only John Ruddick. Diane Coveney-Garland, good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Thank you. More than 28,000 people in New South Wales lost money to scammers last year. An e-scooter rider has been charged after being caught almost twice the legal alcohol limit riding in Queensland, and the Penrith Panthers have lost Jack Cogger for 3 matches through suspension. We'll have those stories and more at the top of the hour.
Thank you so much. On the line now, I've got the leader of the New South Wales Libertarian Party, John Ruddick, MLC. John, good morning to you.
Good morning, Chris.
I do want to get that audio on air very shortly of you and Chris Minns having a bit of verbal stoush. It is highly entertaining. But before we do that, this tax slug continues on our assets. John, the Australian reports today that a new tax on superannuation has been discovered among Labor's capital gains rules that will hit an estimated $372 billion worth of assets. They can't help themselves. But the other thing is, I can't understand why Treasury is so unprepared and ill-researched.
Well, look, I agree with what Pauline Hanson said a few days ago, and that we should make, she's basically saying superannuation should be voluntary. Now, we had superannuation before everyone thinks Paul Keating invented it. No, lots of people had superannuation before. Paul Keating made it compulsory. Yeah. And the whole purpose was this. People were living longer and they thought there's going to be this big burden on the age pension. So let's create this big privately funded superannuation scheme, and then people won't need to be on the aged care. Okay, well, 40 years later, there's barely been a dent in who's taking the aged care. Now, what's then happened, because it's become this monstrosity. And the Labor Party, there's a very, very good article in the Australian today by Judith Sloan, very good economics writer. And she's got a quote here from Anthony Albanese recently. He said, there is real potential to see these funds as a national asset that can be used more appropriately and get better returns as well, not just for individuals and for retirees, but for the nation.
Yeah, because we've got to the stage now, they keep picking it apart, they keep dissecting it, they keep reducing it. We need an option because there are better ways to make a buck.
I tell you, look. Let's say you're someone who you're 20 years old, you're poor, but you're highly ambitious, and you want to get ahead in business, and you're prepared to work your guts out. Okay, great. We need more people like that, and they go and have to get a job first before they can go and start their own business. They've got to get a job, and they're going to work their guts out. Now, then they're forced to pay 12% of their salary to the stupid superannuation, which they're half a century away from. Well, we want this person to go ahead and build his business, okay, whatever it might be. So he doesn't want to pay that 12% for his stupid retirement. He thinks he's going to be a billionaire by then anyway. So we want this guy to be able to save up money as quickly as possible. Well, he can't because the stupid government's taking a lot of it away. Now, another thing I hate about the superannuation industry, Chris, is this. I don't know what the figures are, but there'd be a ton of people out there. I'm guessing 250,000 people at least, who intelligent people like white-collar office workers, accountants and everybody else and fund managers, and they're all working in this super. I suppose someone has to work in it if it's all there, right? But, I mean, it's all like counterproductive. These people should be doing better things than having to deal with this, which Albanese's just told us. He basically thinks of everybody's super as the government's money that he can deploy it for his own little projects like climate change and affordable housing and all this stuff.
You're right on. There's never been a better argument for making super optional. And I spoke with Gerard Rennick about that last week, and he just has a compelling argument as to why, which, given what they're doing to it now, taking bits and pieces every so often to fund the lollies that they hand out during election campaigns, there's never been a better argument. Now, On the front page of the Herald, meanwhile, a poll from Bruce Hawker finds that One Nation voters are most concerned about migration. Surprise, surprise, says Gomer Pyle.
Well, I remember it was about a year ago that the March for Australia's first began, these big anti-immigration marches, or anti-mass immigration marches. And before then, there'd been 3 notable polls saying what people thought about immigration. And it was about sort of very close to 50% where people were prepared to tell a pollster, I think we've got too much immigration. It was sort of 47-53. Now then, after those very big successful, let's stop the mass immigration for a period rallies, that leapfrogged up to sort of 65 to almost 70% of people now telling a pollster, I think we've got too much immigration. Now they are big numbers. Now then, you've probably also got another 5 to 10% on top of that who are still too scared to tell the pollster.
Of course.
So I think we've clearly got 70% of people out there think we've got too much immigration. Broad consensus. And the reason we have a fairly broad consensus is because it's so true. We've got too much mass immigration brought to us by both political parties. And so it's the most important around the entire Western world. And this is what I've said, Chris. I've said this since before COVID. We need a 5-year immigration pause, okay? And after the pause, and I'm talking basically no one can come in with a few little exceptions around the edges, but we want to have a 5-year pause, and then we want to have, during the pause, a 5-year debate about what's best for the next half century. Because the most magnificent thing out there, Chris, is Australia's, such as our ancestors, built such a successful country that half the world would cut their right arm off to come and join in the party with us here in Australia. Well, that's fantastic. So what we've got to be is very picky about who we let in. And maybe after we have a 5-year pause, maybe we think the pause is so great, we'll have a 10-year pause. But what I'm saying is during the pause, we have a debate in our parliaments, on the Chris Smith show, in our opinion pages, at the pub. We have a big debate. And then at the end of the pause, we have a fight on what's the best immigration program going forward? Because if we keep going, Chris, Labor's bringing in people that are going to vote Labor because Labor voters aren't having babies. That's the immigration policy in a nutshell, and it's not good for the future of the country.
That's very true, very true. Now, you've been having a field day in budget estimates with the New South Wales Premier, Chris Minns. You have asked him, among other things, whether he stands by his statement that free speech is incompatible with multiculturalism. Now, this is how the toing and froing went between you and the Premier.
When did I say free speech is incompatible with a free society, with a democratic
Mr. Premier,
society?
you have said that on multiple occasions.
Would you mind repeating it to me, where I've said it and what I said?
We don't have the free speech rules that they have in the United States. We've got strict interpretation of hate speech in the state. If that needs to go further in a legislative sense, that's exactly what
You're denying that you've said it, Mr. Premier.
Oh, I'd love for you to quote it back to me. I don't believe I've ever said...
There's no point of order. It's up to him.
Mr. Chair, I'll answer the question. I don't believe I've said free speech is incompatible with a multicultural society, but if you can provide me the evidence...
similar to that, Mr. Premier?
Oh, well, you've shifted the goalposts pretty dramatically.
Lots of videos.
Hang on a second.
You don't recall
Did I
saying-
say it or not?
You said it, Mr. Premier, yes.
Well, can you provide me the information? I don't think I'm being unreasonable.
I am just shocked that you're contesting it. You haven't said it once, you've said it multiple occasions.
What is it? Free speech is incompatible with a multicultural society.
Yes.
Where have I said that?
You've said it at press conferences.
Tell me when.
Okay, now I'm going to get a single version of what Minns said and play it in just a second, right? But before we do that, you got him, John?
Look, he's a slippery guy. Someone who knows him very, very well last week was telling me that he should have gone to Hollywood, and he should have. He's very clean. He's very good looking. He's very good. He's likable. Chris Minns is likable, but he's got no interest in good public policy. He's just got an interest in getting re-elected. He's like your classic plastic politician. Now he goes out and says stupid things, and he said it. As you're about to play, I think, he said it on multiple occasions. Oh, we don't have free speech in this country like they do in America because we're a multicultural society. And the worst part about that, Chris, is he says it before the press gallery, and all those little kids in the press gallery, they don't even question him about it. And the opposition doesn't question him about it because they're weak. It's left to the little libertarian to hold him to account on it, and he hates it.
How was he? I got the feeling just from his tone, and he's very relaxed normally, very casual, this bloke. I got the feeling he was really put out by what you were saying, but was he really thinking that he never said something like that? Because he did.
Oh no! Well, look. He's very slick. Okay, and he's a lot more experienced at these budget estimates than me. Okay, but we got him the second time round. So part of what you played was something that happened 6 months ago. But then I came back to him just last week, and he said I couldn't believe it 6 months ago that he'd deny saying it. Okay,
yeah, it wasn't 6 years ago.
So I didn't have to. So 6 months ago, what I did was I didn't turn up and say, well, you said on this date and here's the exact words, because I thought, well, he's not going to deny saying it, but he did deny saying it, okay, because he's Pinocchio. So last week I turned up at budget estimates because it's every 6 months at budget estimates, and I'm sitting there and I say, okay, Mr. President, Mr. Premier, this is what you said on this date, and then he hated it, okay, he says, and he's got nothing to say because everyone out there, Chris, even if they're Greens voters or Communist or One Nation or whatever, across the political spectrum, all people in Australia know how important free speech is, except for Chris Minns.
Very interesting. Okay, we've just got that grab. Now, this is Chris Minns 6 months ago, and I can't believe that he wouldn't have remembered anything associated with this. Here he goes.
I recognise, and I've fully said from the beginning, that we don't have the same freedom of speech laws that they have in the United States. And the reason for that is that we want to hold together our multicultural community.
We want to hold together our multicultural community, so therefore we don't have free speech. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, well, and he said.
And what is he meaning by that, John? You can't tell the truth about problems associated with multiculturalism?
Okay, the question you've just asked me is exactly the question I have now tried. I've spent 10 minutes, 5 minutes 6 months ago and 5 minutes last week. That's the exact question I've been trying to ask him. Mr. Premier, you've said this. What does it mean? Why did you say it? What's your thinking behind it? And he will do everything he can to avoid that question.
Yeah. Okay,
and I'll tell you why he wants to avoid that question. Because it is absurd and it's indefensible.
Yeah.
As if all your listeners, if everyone in Australia had a vote, would you prefer to have free speech in this country or multiculturalism, and you can only have one? Gee, I wonder who we'd vote for, Mr. Minns.
Yeah, correct. On that subject, there's a free speech rally set down for this Sunday, is there?
Absolutely, all across Australia at the in all the capital cities. I'll be speaking at the one in Sydney. It'll be somewhere in the CBD. Keep an eye on social media, and it's about one issue, and that issue is the issue of free speech. And the thing is, everybody in Australia has just always grown up thinking, oh, well, we're a free speech country. We're a free speech country. Well, then we went into a little thing called COVID, where there was a ton of censorship and people getting kicked off social media, etc. And then everyone thought, oh, well, it's just a one-off because it's, the great pandemic, we're all about to die. And then COVID passes and then we're still stuck with this censorship issue, which just keeps coming up. And so we need to take a stand. Okay,
now that's March for Australia. If you just put in March for Australia, you will find all the details associated with that rally on Sunday. I want to take a quick break, John, and talk to you about blackouts right after this. So John Roddick, MLC, they've now recalculated the people from AEMO and say that we are about to experience a blackout era in 3.5 years' time. Well, wouldn't you know?
Okay, well, look, what I recently sat down with Aidan Morrison, who works at the Centre for Independent Studies, and he's a real little genius when it comes to all of this, the electricity grid and the renewable rollout. He's very good on social media if you're not following him, Aidan Morrison. Now,
we've had him on the program a dozen times. He is outstanding.
Oh, terrific. Great. Yep. I thought I'd heard him there. Yes, no, he is brilliant. He's a very nice guy too. Now, he explained to me that as of right now in the great state of New South Wales, there are 4 operating coal-fired powered electricity stations. We got 4. 3 of them in the Hunter Valley, 1 of them's out at Lithgow. Now, the biggest of these is Eraring. And Eraring, we've been told twice before, is going to close down, okay? But then they keep coming up with an excuse to extend it for another 2 years. But at this stage, Eraring is on track to close by 2029. Now, I have a prediction here on the Chris Smith Show in August 2026. I believe that within 3 months, assuming Chris Smith, well, whoever wins the next state election in New South Wales, whether it's Kelly Sloan or the One Nation candidate or the Libertarian Party or the Labor Party, whoever wins it, they're going to come out with a little announcement late on a Friday afternoon saying we've decided to extend Eraring another 2 years.
You bet they will.
They will, absolutely.
Because any government in power that is the host of blackouts won't last 5 seconds.
Now, exactly. They'll forget all their global warming stuff if they're not going to get re-elected because of that. A 3-day blackout in Sydney. Gee, that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, great.
Now, but the worry's this, Chris. This is the worry. If people own a motor vehicle, it has to be maintained every 6 to 12 months. You have to take it to the mechanic and get things sort of repaired a little bit around the edges. Okay, well, that's the same with any piece of machinery, and particularly with a large piece of machinery like a coal-fired power station. These things need to be maintained and upgraded or they wear out. Okay, now what's been happening because of the global warming BS is that the people that own these coal-fired power stations have been saying, well, we don't need to upgrade them because the government's going to force us to shut them down soon. So I'm not angry at the owners of the power station.
It's the government. It's the demonising of the coal. That's the problem. The demonising of the coal, and then they blame the coal-fired power stations for delivering expensive electricity. I've got to leave it there, John. You've been incredible this morning. Thank you for your time. Let's hear what you've got to say after that long conversation with John Ruddick, but there are some big issues floating around today that needed to be covered. Let's start with Richard from Malabar. Hi, Richard.
How are you, Chris?
Good, thank you.
John Ruddick, very, very good. I'll try and go to that rally on Sunday. I hope that the New South Wales Premier and the Police Commissioner are going to make sure that anybody who attempts to exercise that right peacefully to go for that defence of free speech is arrested and charged and put before the courts. and I know it doesn't happen. They didn't do it for 2 years, and we saw what happened at Bondi as a direct result of the failure by Minns and the then police commissioner acting, but he was being nobbled by his political masters. But I want to see that happen. Look, 2 things about what John was talking about that was played into what's in the Australian today, and it's in on page. It's basically the front of the Telegraph, but inside I saw, on page 3, I think it was the Anti-Semitism Royal Commission.
Yep.
And the comment by former judge, and I'll quote the name, Ronald Sackville, who made the call, he's been interviewed on the media, that the Royal Commission should be extended. And when he was asked pointedly about how it should be run, well, it wouldn't be run, I would be running it differently. Yeah, being a judge and it was diplomatic, but it was very clear it should be extended. I find it extraordinary and the height of hypocrisy coming from Chris Minns. He now wants to call for an extension. Well, where the hell were you, Premier Minns, in the last 6 months? Yes. Where were you when people were screaming out on the streets from not just the Jewish community but other people in the community about what are you doing about resources? Where were you, Premier Minns, when ASIO boss said we had a terrorist attack on Australian, one in Melbourne on a synagogue where they firebombed a synagogue with 25 people in it. Thank God no one was burnt to death in that. We had another one in Sydney. And guess what? The ASIO boss said to everybody they expected more. That was in August 2025. Why didn't you allocate resources to the police force? Now, yes, Albanese and all the rest of them should be before that Royal Commission, but Premier Minns, it seems like you're having a political conversion on the road to Damascus.
And there he is 4 days out from the end of the Royal Commission saying, I think it'd be a good idea to extend it. Well, too late.
Well, yeah, it is. Well, it isn't too. Yeah, yes, it is too late for this point. But he should be putting the pressure on. The only reason that Chris Minns, and I think it's very good that John Ruddick called him out in relation to free speech.
Yeah.
Course. we would vote for free speech. Any democracy in the world worth its salt who's sacrificed 103,000 war dead, right, and then hundreds of thousands of others, which is one other I just want to quickly make the comment of, would vote for free speech over anything.
Yeah, exactly. Richard, I want to move on. I've got a packed board here with people wanting to have their say, but you've made your point, and he leaves it 4 days until the end of the Royal Commission, which is just a waste of time. Mark on the Gold Coast, Chris Bowen.
Well, I tell you what, Chris, good to hear your voice, mate. Mate, I wake up in the middle of the night. You know, hopefully you like to see your mother passed away, a vision of her at the end of your bed. I wake up at the end every night with a sweat, and there's Chris Bowen preaching policy to me. Now, Chris, he's in the news on the weekend talking about rent increases. He's at a press conference he talks about immigration. He talks about every treasury. This guy can't run his own department, energy, and he's there. Mate, he would have been a general in the Third Reich if you look at him in all the press interviews. I don't say that. I'm not being insensitive. Your listeners agree I'm being realistic. He is the most hated politician in this country, yet Alvo, and I keep on emphasising this, Sue goes on about Trump, one of your callers, I love Sue. I'm the leader of the get rid of blackout band. This guy, if Moxo did a thing on This Week, it'll be like Yes Minister, with him, Albo, ringing Chris Bowen to get advice on how to run the government.
Mark, that's a really good cue for this.
I don't have mates. I have political peers. And they're all puppets like me with dubious careers. We don't give a toss about the people we're supposed to serve. We abuse our positions every day without reserve. So hoist the sails of the devil's ship. We head to a place that has no rules. Climb aboard for your final trip. Join me on the ship of fools. I'll be the captain at the helm. Fear not, there's no cause for concern. I'll steer us to this fantasy world from where there is no return. I've never had an honest job. I'm a unionist at heart. I sucked my way up the labor ladder and always played my part as the willing grifter for the global cabal that wants to control. And to United Nations I've sold my soul. So hoist the sails of Satan's brig and voyage to a place that has no rules. You'll find no peace in the grave you dig. Come join me on the ship of fools. So fill your cup with bitter wine from the grapes of wrath your feet have trod. Ripe with poison through the vine, drunk with power and cursed by God.
Across regional Australia, communities are being destroyed by the reckless rollout of wind farms and solar factories. And as reported on the weekend, Chris Bowen simply does not get it. Policymakers cannot escape the reality that much of our prime agricultural land will have to be sacrificed to meet government-mandated renewable energy targets. Under his government's renewable superpower policy, 15% of Australia's landmass will be littered with wind turbines and solar panels. That's the equivalent to 1/3 of Australia's prime agricultural farmland.
My name is Bowen. Some people call me Chris. I'm in the Australian government, and I'm a communist.
Anthony, good morning to you.
Mate, John Ruddock and Minns, he is a pretty boy. He's very handsome for a politician, but we won't go down that road. Look, freedom of expression in this country, mate, and it's true we don't have any First Amendment, but what we have is a freedom of political communication. You can look up the cases. There's been a number of High Court cases about this, which means if you want to be exempt from any pressure on you when you're speaking on air or anywhere in public, you just put it in the context of a political situation. It's not limited to when there's an election coming up. It's just as long as you make it clear it's a political thing. And everything we talk about these days is political. So we do have an indirect, it's an implied freedom of communication. It just has to be put in a political context. Now,
But Minns was right 6 months ago in that to try and keep multiculturalism together, you cannot say anything derogatory about a particular race of people or a particular subset of that race, even if they play up.
This is right, mate. And this is why Pauline was so right when she was talking about monocultures. I've said this before. There are three main types of cultures, monocultures, if you like. And when we speak about a culture, we're talking about the political, social and religious structures in that culture, and particularly individual freedoms within those structures. So on that basis, looking at it in terms of those criteria, there are three cultures, monocultures, if you like, to use Pauline's nomenclature. In the world, we've got Western democracy, we've got communism and Islam. And guess which one is the only one that gives individual freedoms? Western democracy.
Yeah.
There's that basic incompatibility between Western democracy and the other two. Communism, we're seeing the impact of communism in the US elections right now, but we know the effect of Islam. There's no individual freedoms within Islam. Now, here's the problem with the ALP, and this needs to be highlighted. They're glued to Islam. Why are they glued to Islam? Because Muslims, you can look up, there's a site called Muslim Votes Matter, and it's run by the Muslims in this country. There are 22 federal seats, which are determined by the Muslim vote, which is a block vote. They're very, very tightly disciplined within their vote, the Muslims, and the margin of victory in each of those 22 seats is exceeded by the Muslim vote. Narrow margin of victories, if you've got a few thousand Muslim votes, they're going to determine the election. All of those seats, Chris, all of them are held by the ALP.
There you go. That creates the full loop. I've still got plenty of listeners sitting on my open line board, and I'll get to you in about 5 minutes' time, but I do want to cover this because it's important. There is an absolute crisis looming for children in regional and rural Australia, with some kids waiting up to 6 years to see a paediatrician, that's just in New South Wales, for conditions including ADHD and autism. Now, the problem is being driven by a shortage of specialists outside Sydney, leaving families travelling hundreds of kilometres or simply sitting on waiting lists while their children struggle at school and at home. And I've covered the same scenario in Queensland. One organisation trying to fill that gap is Little Wings, which flies paediatricians into regional communities to run free clinics and access children who might, or should I say, assess children and access them when they might be waiting years for care. Joining us now is Claire Pearson, the CEO of Little Wings. Claire, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
It was alarming, that spread today in the Telegraph, so necessary to warn us about the current situation. But take us back to COVID when Little Wings first started running these clinics. What were you hearing from families that made you realise that the gap had to be filled?
Yes, at the time, we just wanted to pivot our model so that the children we were already flying in for treatment could continue to access care. But of course, with the lockdowns, that wasn't possible, and we started flying doctors out. And it was just family after family turning up saying, can my child see the paediatrician specialist? And so we made a commitment to continue those clinics, and we do anywhere between 110 and 250 clinics a year across New South Wales.
Truth, 250, that's almost one every weekday.
That's right, yes.
That's extraordinary. Now, we're hearing stories of children sitting on waiting lists for 2, 3, even 6 years. Is this the reason, because we don't have specialists in the bush, we don't have enough of them, and we certainly don't have enough GPs either?
That's exactly right. And so the Little Wings model means that Doctors that are in the city that are happy to give their services can fly out, deliver a clinic and be home in time for dinner so they can continue to work and operate and serve their patients in the city, but also to making sure that those in the bush don't miss out, because the waiting lists are astronomical. In some cases, over 400 children on waiting lists.
So we're presuming then that it would follow that as they go through the school system, they fall behind, and so does their behaviour as well. These are all the, byproducts of suffering from these ailments, right?
That's exactly right. Typically, most programs focus on early intervention, those first 2,000 days, and then the next age group is up to 12, primary school. And we're focused on that as well, but we're seeing more and more high schools also reach out where children are 13 plus and have never been diagnosed. And of course, they start to see a lack of education, they start to see antisocial behaviours, and then even in some cases self-medicating with drugs and alcohol to engage and bring on those social skills and numb what they're going through.
Yep, and it compounds and compounds. Okay, so you could do with a fleet of aircraft to service these areas, couldn't you?
We really could. I mean, how long is a piece of string? We have 12 communities on the waiting list at the moment who are going through the process to prepare, but we need the fuel, we need the planes, we need the doctors to get them out there and to make sure these services are sustainable. There's no point doing a clinic and going, oh, look, we ticked a box, we did it. It has to be long-term, it has to be routine, it has to be accessible. So we not only have diagnosis, but continuity of care.
How much support do you get from the New South Wales Health Department?
This year we've received $600,000, which we're very grateful to receive, giving us that stability for the current families we are serving. But the communities are calling daily. People are calling every day needing our support, we can't do it without more assistance.
So how can my listeners assist in terms of donations?
They can make a donation directly through the website or reach out to us, littlewings.org.au. Of course, if you're a paediatrician, if you're a paediatric specialist of any sort, even if you're a GP, we would love to speak to you about potentially flying you out one day a week. We know the needs are so great, and we're just about to launch a medical van as well, so that in those communities that don't even have a doctor's surgery or anywhere to host a clinic, we can fly the doctor out and they can deliver the clinic in our van in real time in the community.
So it's sort of it's a double whammy for you, trying to get the flights out to these remote places, but also trying to find GPs and paediatricians.
We are. We work with the hospitals when we fly the hospitals from the doctors from the hospitals out, and that works well, but it doesn't allow us to respond to the individual needs of communities. And so we're also sourcing our own doctors so we can prescribe where they go and when they go to make sure we reach the hardest to reach communities.
Yeah. Great to have you on the program, Claire. Thank you very much. And hopefully some of our generous listeners can help you out with some of this, and paediatricians and GPs, if you are listening, contact Little Wings as soon as you can. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Good on you. Claire Pearson, the CEO of Little Wings. What a wonderful charity. What a wonderful service. These kids are slipping through the cracks, and then, as she rightly pointed out, they slip through the cracks even further when it comes to behaviour and then addiction. You can't let that sort of stuff happen just because they're in the bush. Peter, good morning.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for waiting.
Why are you and your small number of listeners such
Hang on, Peter, just before, how do you know I've got a small number of listeners?
digital evangelizers?
Oh, Peter, hang on. You're my famous listener. Peter, why don't you do yourself a favour and find another radio station, or send me an email and I'll give you a list of them? Peter, why don't you send me an email and I'll give you a list of all the radio stations you can contact, and stop giving me a migraine?
You're a whinger.
Oh, Peter, leave me alone. I just got on this radio station and tried my best to help kids in the bush. If that's what you call whinging, you're a nutcase. Boy, he sat there for an hour, He sat there for an hour, and I know that there's a person that uses different names and comes on to give me some grief, and it's just downtime. It's not entertaining. It's not informative. He just doesn't like listening to me. That's fine. I can give you a list. There are plenty of great radio stations out there, Pete. Great radio stations. However, I've got to tell you about this. I want you to join me for a 16-day Africa and Victoria Falls tour with cruise offers. This is a bucket list item, I'm telling you. I've been wanting to do this for about 10 years because about 12 years ago I went out to South Africa and had the most incredible holiday of my life. So I finally managed to get the people from Cruise Offers on board. We've got a comprehensive overland African adventure spanning some of the continent's most iconic natural and cultural destinations. It is a must-go. This is a real must-go. Of all the trips that I've taken, I would regard this as the top trip ever organised. Travellers will explore the raw history of Johannesburg and will duck into Soweto and have a good look. Then we get to the thunderous grandeur of the Victoria Falls, one of the major natural wonders of the world. The journey shifts to Botswana for unforgettable 4x4 safaris across the floodplains of Chobe National Park to view the Big Five wildlife before cutting into the spectacular desert landscapes of Namibia. Then we will explore German colonial architecture in Windhoek and Swakopmund, plus Sesriem and Divile. Easy for you to say. This fully escorted holiday culminates with a 4-night stay in Cape Town, one of the great cities of the world. The vista of Table Mountain and the scenic coastal excursion to the Cape of Good Hope. This is where you start. You either ring this number or look at this website. This is where you start. Go to chrissmithcruise.com.au. That's chrissmithcruise.com.au. By the way, it's not a cruise. And then you go to 1-800-630-343. One of those. Give them a call right away. Tell them to send you a brochure, quick smart, because this will fill up really quickly. 1-800-630-343. And come with me as we explore the wonders of Africa.
2SM Sydney traffic.
Alexandria, work on Mitchell Road now is closed northbound from Sydney Park Road to Maddox Street, and Palm Beach wires are down on Barrenjoey Road at Currarong Avenue. Major roads will close on Sunday for the Sydney Marathon from North Sydney to Kingsford, including the Harbour Bridge, Western Distributor and Anzac Parade. Details at livetraffic.com. I'm Ian Wallace with the latest traffic on 2SM 1269.
As an experienced newsman of many years, Tim Webster knows a story when he sees one. From his days as a Channel 10 newsreader
from the Eyewitness Newsroom
to now,
G'day, great to have your company.
Tim is insightful and gets behind the stories that count. Weekday mornings from 5 a.m. on 2SM Sydney.
Census night was Tuesday the 11th of August. The census is compulsory for every household. There's still time to complete. Visit census.abs.gov.au or call 1800 181 227. Authorised by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, Canberra.
Did you know that Cobram Estate Extra Virgin Olive Oil supports heart health when consuming 2 or more 15ml serves per day as part of a balanced diet? Cobram Estate is made from olives grown in northern Victoria, which are harvested and first cold pressed within 4 to 6 hours to create a premium quality oil. That's why every bottle is fresh and full of flavour, making your food taste even better. Cobram Estate. Premium quality, great tasting, and the most awarded Australian extra virgin olive oil.
At Bunnings Trade, no matter where you are, we're here to help. We have trade specialists in store dedicated to you and your trade. Whether it's sourcing supplies, quoting on jobs, or arranging delivery direct to site. And our builders team with dedicated account managers has got you covered at every building stage, from the front fence to the back gate. Plus, you can call our Trade Assist team on 134872 for quick quotes on a wide range of supplies, saving you time and hassle. Bunnings Trade. Helping business is our trade.
No more. Ugh. No more. If you need to improve your joint mobility and flexibility, try Arbor Vitae Joint Health for the relief of pain and other symptoms associated with mild arthritis and inflammation. Arbor Vitae, it's wellness backed by science. The main ingredient, pycnogenol, has been widely studied for 40 years with more than 160 clinical trials and 450 scientific publications. For more info on Arbor Vitae's products and its own clinical study, visit arborvitae.com.au. That's arborvitae.com.au. Available in all major chemists and health food stores. Always read the label and follow the directions for use.
This is Sydney's 1269 2SM.
Super Radio Network News Update, brought to you by Norwegian Cruise Line. Set sail with Norwegian Cruise Line, Europe's leading cruise line.
Diane, what's happening?
Thank you, Chris. New South Wales Police have played a key role in dismantling a series of international online child abuse networks, a drop in national house prices around the country, and Latrell Mitchell is tipped to return for the Rabbitohs this week when they take on the Titans on the Gold Coast. At least we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. We'll have those stories and more at the top of the hour.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Even Diane knows how crucial that game is against the Titans for the Rabbits. He's going to be on the substitute bench. Super sub, Latrell. We'll see. Coles has just announced its full-year profit. Now, bear in mind, this is the revenue at Coles. $45.7 billion. Just think about that for a second. 45.7 billion revenue they make. So that's a full-year profit of 1.09 billion. Billion. Talking about billions, the US and Canada have now officially fallen into a massive trade war. What did the Prime Minister say the other day? We're in a war with the United States. Well, it's a trade war. They had talks about tariffs, you see, and they just collapsed. Donald Trump has slapped 50% tariffs on about $20 billion worth of Canadian goods. And so Carney has hit back dollar for dollar from September the 8th. Now, the breakdown comes after months of negotiations with the two sides reportedly getting close to a deal that would have reduced tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminium and cars. But Carney walked away, saying the US demands were unfair and uneconomic. I don't mind this Carney fella. I think Mark Carney is a decent fella. So he stood up to Trump, basically. And Trump's accusing Canada of ripping off the US for years. Here's what Mark Carney said.
It's not a surprise for us that the US would take some form of reprisal to our response to their unjustified tariff, which was on top of other unjustified tariffs. That's not a surprise. But what message does that send to the workers in Michigan and Ohio and Kentucky and Alabama who rely on Canadian demand? There is a mutually beneficial deal possible here, but it has to be one that respects Canada's sovereignty.
Yeah, so they're at war. That's a massive trade war between the two countries. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford, he isn't holding back either. He says the US relies heavily on Canadian resources, including oil and the potash needed to grow American crops.
We either roll back and let them take over our country, watch the steel sector bleed out, watch the auto sector bleed out, the auto part manufacturers bleed out, all the manufacturers bleed out. That's his game. Folks, we're an economic powerhouse. Make no mistake about it. He says he doesn't need Canada. I'd love to see, he wants to take our auto sector. I'd love to see him run cars without any oil. I'd love to see, him try to grow vegetables and fruit and everything without the potash.
Yeah, Doug Ford, he's a gem, this fellow, the Ontario Premier. Trump says Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one. What does that even mean? While Carney says the US asked too much and offered too little, so these tariffs could mean higher production costs for both countries, by the way, higher prices, without a doubt, job losses too, and pressure on businesses on both sides of the border. Tariffs are evil, especially between two similar countries like Canada and America, but also between the United States and Australia. Let's go to Ross on the open line. 13 12 69 is the telephone number. Love to hear from you this morning. Ross, go ahead.
Good morning, Chris. On Sunday I had a bit of chest pain, so I had to call the ambulance. This is a Foster Tuncurry ambulance up to Taree Hospital. And I just wanted to say how fantastic the staff were. there's two ladies in the ambulance, and plus the staff in the emergency at Taree Hospital. Yeah, they're just really are fantastic, and I'm just amazed how all those medical staff are so cheerful all the time. When you them.
That's interesting. I'm glad you stayed on the line to say that, because it wasn't long ago I had some negative feedback about Taree Hospital, but it's good to tell good stories, and it's great to tell a story about a regional hospital, which is no doubt doing it tough with a lack of doctors, etc. But you had a great experience.
Oh yeah, the staff, they were very good. They explained everything to you, and as I say, they're all like cheerful, not grumpy and all that. I don't know how they do it with the job they do.
Yeah, same here.
Did a lot of tests on me, and found my heart was okay, but I have to go and see my GP. But the doctor noticed my Rabbitohs flag on my cane, and he said, "Are you a Rabbitohs supporter?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, now I know why you're here."
What does that mean? Now I know why you're here.
Well, now I know why you are here after the game on Saturday.
Oh, right, okay. He's got a sense of humour too.
Yeah, there's a few comments about my Rabbitohs flag.
That's fantastic, Ross. You wave it proudly, mate. Win, lose or draw.
I do.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
Good on you. Well, Australia's electricity demand is about to surge, as I've been telling you through the morning, with the energy market operator warning New South Wales could face reliability issues. That's called blackouts, right? And this could happen as early as 2030, 3.5 years' time. 3 years earlier than they previously forecast. As we race towards a potential electricity shortfall, greater risk of blackouts, and of course when it's short, your power prices are going to go further through the roof. Data centres alone are expected to consume almost as much electricity as every household does in New South Wales and Victoria combined. How's that? But of course, you either miss out on the AI data revolution, as we're likely to do, or you miss out on cheaper prices. You see, because Chris Bowen's now telling all data centres, they've got to supply their own power and they've got to get it from renewables only. So these are 24/7 operations. Unlike many other manufacturing places in this country, data centres are 24/7. So the sun doesn't shine at 3 a.m. in the morning. The wind doesn't blow every day of the week. And so they're expecting batteries to do the job. Well, batteries are inferior and they don't give you much at all. Unless, of course, you've got a battery in your house where you're dealing with a lot less amount of power. And as we race to find new sources of reliable power, the potential for alternative energy is quite literally on our doorstep. And this is why I wanted to introduce to you this morning the idea that thorium is one of Australia's most abundant resources and should be connected to our power supply. Thorium. So could thorium nuclear power play a role in Australia's energy future? Joining us to discuss that is Mark Finch, Managing Director at Emerald Horizon. Mark, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Chris.
Now, when we talk about uranium, we talk in terms of being CO2 emission-free, we talk in terms of being baseload. But when you speak of thorium, it has far greater advantages than even uranium, right?
Correct. Thorium's a very unique element, and it's effectively what's a byproduct of the rare earth mining. So we're already digging it out of the ground in our rare earth mines, but it's actually just being left as a byproduct and its energy density compared to uranium is much larger. So you can only get about 4% of the energy out of an enriched uranium rod, where with thorium we can get over 85% of the energy out, and its energy density is very unique. That, to give you an example, a third of a barrel. If you look at a barrel of oil, a third of a barrel of thorium equates to about 2.8 million barrels of oil when it comes to its energy density. So
wow.
Australia's the largest holder of thorium reserves in the world, and yet this is sitting on our doorstep. And with our technology using accelerators, which was developed in Switzerland at CERN, we can have a system that you can turn on and off. Produces clean, CO2-free energy, and it has no nuclear waste whatsoever.
No waste.
No waste.
Denser, so therefore providing more power for the same amount. And
Yes.
you've got these small modular molten salt thorium plants that you've
Correct.
designed.
That's right, which we're going to release in market by 2030. We've just signed a large manufacturing agreement in Europe with a big company called VDL, which they make everything from satellites to the machines that make the chips that go in your computers. So very high-end manufacturer. But, a 40-foot container of our system can power about 10,000 homes for 20 years. That you can turn on and off if you need to. So very, very highly dense power. And the great thing is we can put these across the countryside in bunkers where no one would see them, connect them to the grid, and we put the power where we need it.
And in terms of safety, tell us about that.
Sorry?
In terms of safety, what are the advantages?
Safety. So it does have some radioactivity, but nothing of great size where, the container is a enclosed capsule, but it can't overheat, it can't explode because it uses molten salt, which can turn to a liquid, but it can't actually explode like typically steam. We don't use a steam generator to convert the heat to electricity. We use a supercritical CO2 heat exchanger. So therefore, we don't rely on having to have a large water source nearby to create the power. And so having it bunker the radioactivity, you need about a 2 metre square surround around the actual system itself. So very safe.
So when we decided under John Howard that we should put a ban on using uranium for energy purposes, did they do the same for thorium at the same time?
Sorry, I broke up a bit there, Chris.
That's okay. When we put a ban on using uranium for energy purposes, did they also put a ban on using thorium for energy purposes?
No, they didn't, but they still classify you as a nuclear system because of the way that you're extracting, you're transmuting the element. So effectively you're deemed under the same regulations. So, talking to Asian countries, they love it because there's no nuclear waste, which is a huge, huge problem for a lot of these countries looking to move to nuclear. But unfortunately, yes, we want to actually change that legislation.
Yes, please.
But ultimately, a lot of the government's watching and waiting. But as soon as I think we have our first system running in the next 18 months, then that will open a lot of eyes to just what it can help provide power in the Australian market.
So you'll have a system running in 18 months, will you?
Yes, that'll be our pre-commercialised system. So that'll be going through the steps in Europe. That'll go through the EU regulations to be approved. And then from there, effectively, we can then mirror that around the world based on those approvals.
Now, so
hopefully Australia will move to that in that direction.
Yeah, well, hopefully, because you are already having some significant business talks with smaller nations around the Pacific, aren't you?
Correct. So when you're talking about the smaller Pacific nations that completely rely on diesel and run diesel generation to generate their baseload power on these islands, we can actually remove that altogether so they can have clean energy in a small compact system, and they can be effectively energy independent. So it's a very unique system, and that in industry as well. So being able to put these systems in mines where mines then can actually electrify their mine and get away from diesel, which is an enormous cost for the mining industry. It has a lot of advantages when it comes to industry as well.
I remember conducting an interview with the New South Wales Senator Bill Heffernan, and he was an absolute advocate for thorium and couldn't understand why politicians couldn't get it into their thick heads that this was the way forward. Have you got any politicians currently in the parliament on your side?
We have spoken to both sides of the aisle in Parliament, and a lot of them, especially behind closed doors, are very interested in the systems, knowing that it doesn't produce nuclear waste and is not a critical system, so it's subcritical, i.e. we're able to turn it on and off when needed. But they're effectively sitting back and watching with interest to see how the product goes as we get it closer to rolling out in market. But I think the pressure on us trying to meet our net zero and at the same time provide reliable baseload power, I think sooner or later the push and shove, politicians will have to consider it.
Well, they have to, because in the last 24 hours, AEMO is telling us that we're going to have blackouts in 3.5 years' time. We've got to find a baseload alternative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Completely agree.
All right, Mark, great to speak with you. We'll talk again on this subject because it's too important. Thank you very much for your time.
Excellent. Thanks for your time, Chris.
Good on you. Managing Director at Emerald Horizon, Mark Finn. Sorry about the connection we had with his phone. But so I just wanted to introduce you to that. And when you think about how dense it is, and therefore it's supplying per unit far greater power than what we get from uranium, far greater power from what we get from fossil fuels, coal, gas. It's a no-brainer. It's not critical. It's safe. There's no waste. There's no CO2. Like, how many boxes do you have to tick? We've got to find a way of not being dependent on renewables because they're not going to be baseload capable. They just won't. You can add as many batteries as you want at $1 trillion the cost. It still won't supply us with power 24/7. And with the onset of AI, it's become even more critical that we look for other alternatives. We've just got to find a political party or a political leader that has the guts to look at it closely. That's a little bit more difficult than the other challenges. Now, this hour on the program, we're going to begin celebrating International Dog Day, which is not today, but it's actually tomorrow. And I want to talk dogs today, and I know that people have some incredible dog stories about your wondrous pet and how he or she does incredible things. Well, we're going to talk about dogs and where they go nowadays that you think crosses the line and where you take your dog that you wouldn't normally take your dog. All right, we'll get to that in just a second. But before we go anywhere, there's a drama series out of the United States called Landman, and it's hugely successful. I've watched one season. It stars, at the moment, Billy Bob Thornton, who's a bit of a wag. I always like Billy Bob Thornton in his movies. And it's based on a huge West Texas property where the ranchers go to war about all sorts of things, but they go to war mainly because of oil. Some are building oil rigs because they've been given permission to do so by the state government. And it's about the fuel boom and how they're coping. And it's there's a really interesting scene that I've always wanted to play for you, and I think today is the day to play it. In light of the fact that AEMO is reporting that we're going to have blackouts in 3.5 years' time, that's called reliability threshold, otherwise known as blackouts. Because of that, and because we've gone full steam ahead on renewables and wind turbines and solar panels, that's part of the reason why we can't sustain an AI data centre revolution. I thought today was the day to play this. Now, Billy Bob's character talks about the reality of wind turbines on his property with his daughter. And he starts the conversation by saying, don't talk to me about wind, because they've got big turbines. And they're parked in the middle of the property underneath all of these big turbines. And she starts to say, this is the future and this is power. She knocks oil and all that sort of stuff and says that this is the future, wind turbines. And he says, no. This is not good for the environment. And then she says, what? Have a listen to how Billy Bob Thornton gives us a reality check on wind turbines.
Please, Mr. Oilman, tell me how the wind is bad for the environment.
Do you have any idea how much diesel they have to burn to mix that much concrete or make that steel and haul this shit here and put it together with a 450-foot crane? You want to guess how much oil it takes to lubricate or winterize it, and its 20-year lifespan, it won't offset the carbon footprint of making it. And don't get me started on solar panels and the lithium in your Tesla battery. And never mind the fact that if the whole world decided to go electric tomorrow, we don't have the transmission lines to get the electricity to the cities. It'd take 30 years if we started tomorrow. And unfortunately for your grandkids, we have a 120-year petroleum-based infrastructure. Our whole lives depend on it. And hell, it's in everything. That road we came in on, the wheels on every car ever made, including yours, it's in tennis rackets and lipstick and refrigerators and antihistamines, pretty much anything plastic. Your cell phone case, artificial heart valves, any kind of clothing that's not made with animal or plant fibers, soap, garbage bags, fishing boats, you name it. Every. And you know what the kicker is? We're going to run out of it before we find its replacement.
It's the thing that's going to kill us all as a species.
No, the thing that's going to kill us all is running out before we find an alternative. And believe me, if Exxon is right there with the future, they'd be putting them all over the goddamn place. Getting oil out of the ground is the most dangerous job in the world. We don't do it because we like it. We do it because we run out of options.
That's Billy Bob Thornton's character on Landman. Didn't he nail it? Didn't he nail it? Didn't he give us the truth about wind turbines? 20-year lifespan, turn it all around. The amount of oil, the amount of coal-fired power stations needed to put up these massive concrete structures, they just don't think of that. They just don't, they put that aside. Oh, no, we're greening the world. What a load of rubbish. Total load of rubbish. Talking about a load of rubbish, I don't know whether you've been following it. I've had a few calls from people in the Coffs Harbour area talking to me about Uraga National Park and the Brumby Kill. This is separate from the Brumby Kill and the 7,000 Brumbies that have been slaughtered in Kosciuszko. We're slaughtering them at Coffs Harbour as well. Yes, and it could get underway at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you very much to Darren, who sent me an email and said, looks like they're going to start shooting wild Brumbies 100 kilometres northwest of Coffs Harbour starting today. Well, that could start at 2 o'clock. Let me tell you the bit of background here. There was an urgent legal bid to stand in the way of this aerial cull of Brumbies. Yes, aerial cull. So they weren't satisfied with the aerial cull and the controversy surrounding that kind of slaughter in Kosciuszko. They want to repeat the aerial cull near Coffs Harbour of Brumbies, which the Americans are laughing at Australia over because they don't do it. Even in gun-toting America, they don't do it. So they're shooting Brumbies, they're shooting pigs, they're shooting deer, and that's all well and good. But all of a sudden, a group of activists decided to stand in the way of it. Good on them. Brumby activist Carmen Jackson is challenging the New South Wales government, arguing there may not be lawful authority for the cull to go ahead. Now, I tell you what happened. She was able to force a court to convene at 1 a.m. on Monday morning. You heard right. 1 a.m. yesterday morning, the court convened in Sydney. Now, they haven't decided on what to do. The court reconvened at 9 o'clock yesterday, 9 a.m., with Justice Rachel Pepper giving the government time to respond to the challenge. So the aerial shooting operation was then pushed back. It was due to start on Monday morning, with the government telling the court it would begin at 2 p.m. today, allowing the case to be heard this morning. So this morning, the court's back in session right now, and the government is explaining to the court why it's okay to shoot moving Brumbies from a moving helicopter. Boy, oh boy, they got some hide, haven't they? What about homing programs? What about fertility programs, which is exactly what the Americans do to their Mustangs, wild horses? Fertility programs. May cost a little bit more, but at least you don't shoot a Brumby and have the Brumby in terrible, terrible pain after being shot in the head, or if you're lucky to shoot it in the head. Anyway, this is going on right now. Thank you very much, Darren, for letting us know, and we'll keep across what's happening in court and see how that goes. Back to the subject of oil. Brett in the Tweed. Go ahead, Brett.
Chris, how you going, buddy?
Good, thank you.
Mate, I watched that show 12 months ago, and I remember that clip. And when I heard it, I thought of one person.
Me?
Yes. I thought, oh, Chris would love to hear this. I think this would be right.
Well, you know what? It was sent to me last year. I vaguely remember having it ready to go on a program, and I don't think I played it on the program because it got too busy. But, look, I could be wrong. I may have already played it, but I can't remember accurately. But I'm glad today was a really good day to play it.
Yeah, no, it was... when I listened to it, I thought, oh, my God. And I listen to you most days as a part of my daily entertainment. And
good.
I thought Chris would love to hear something like this, and I think I just lost track of it and all that sort of thing. So,
how good is it?
Oh, it's just very straight and direct to the point, isn't it? Yeah.
And it's factual. It's actually the manufacturing of wind turbines and what it does for the environment or what it doesn't do for the environment that is never mentioned by greenies.
No, exactly. So, what you're saying, the underlying issues behind the renewables is, in a way, is quite correct. There's a lot of waste and a lot of stuff that's got to be gotten rid of, and it's not very good for the environment, and.
And if you think that CO2 is the enemy, and it's not, but if you think CO2 is the enemy, why wouldn't you plant more trees? But what they're doing to sustain a renewable transition is to remove 14,000 square hectares of fauna and flora across Australia. Now, I'm sorry, but that is not saving the environment.
No. Anyway, I just thought I'd bring you to let you know. I saw that 12 months ago. It was very interesting, and I thought of you when I heard it.
I'll play it again, Brett. Don't worry. Not now, but I'll play it at another time. Thank you very much for your call. Booby, hi. Who have I got? I can hear the person rustling on the other side of the telephone. Who's this?
Is it Bobby?
Bobby, not Booby. I wondered why you'd call yourself Booby.
Yeah, that's right. Booby, that's right.
There's too many O's in that name on the board that I've got. So let's take one of the O's off, and then we've got Bobby. Go ahead.
Bobby, right? Yeah, mate. That show you're talking about, it's a great show.
Oh, Landman, it's a great show. And wasn't Costner in it originally?
No, not Costner. No, I can't remember his name. Yeah, but it was a great show.
You've watched it?
Yeah, mate, I watched it, and I loved it. I loved it, mate. Billy J. Thorpe, mate, is one of the best actors I've seen.
Oh, yeah, now Costner, Kevin Costner was in Yellowstone, which was the precursor to Landman.
Yeah. But, yeah, mate, the movie's great. You got to watch it.
Yeah, I have watched one season. I love Billy Bob Thornton, and how good was Billy Bob Thornton talking about oil?
But, mate, he plays a good part in it. He's so down to earth and so up front. Yeah.
What about Ali Larter? How good's she?
Oh, mate, she's great.
Yeah.
She is great. Also, mate, I'd like to say, go ahead, Pauline Hanson, mate. That's what I'm going to say.
You're backing her?
Yeah, maybe that's I am, mate.
Why?
Mate, I've been following her for 30 years.
Well, she's going to win some seats. They reckon she'll win 10, maybe 12 seats in Victoria. And I don't know how many in New South Wales come the election next year. But at the federal election, she could win, 30 seats.
Well, mate, we've got the whole town here going for her.
Is that right? What town are you in?
Gundawindi.
Okay, Gundy. All right. Yeah, well, that's interesting, isn't it? Good on you, Bobby. Thank you very much for your call. Peter, hi. Hey, Pete.
Hello. Oh, good day, Chris. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you. Pete from Mittagong. Go ahead.
Yep. Look, the really interesting chat you had with the gentleman regarding the thorium reactor concept.
Yeah.
And just recently, you may have been aware of it, I saw an amazing video of a young guy, he's actually, I think, Australian, that's involved in a company that's developed these modular nuclear reactors that are about the size of a large water heater that fit in the back of a Ford F-150 truck in the US. It's pretty amazing. But my question was, you've got Tomago, right, which is the holding company's Rio Tinto. Now, surely Rio Tinto would have the money to invest in their own on-site, HEIC coal-fired power station or a thorium reactor.
If they were ever given permission to build one.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. But wouldn't that make so much more sense for these?
Yes.
Energy.
Low emissions, high efficiency, coal-fired power stations that could keep Tomago going for decades.
and without any cost to the rest of the community.
Yes.
Supply them.
Spot on.
Jeez, I tell you haven't heard that mentioned. But look, just talking about this renewables issue in Australia, look, I don't believe that the whole collective of Labor and the Greens generally, the whole renewable scam, if you want to call it that, which includes people like Turnbull and Keane and all the rest of the people who all have vested interests, Simon Holmes at Court, etc. There's got to be something.
I've got to say, I don't think Matt Keane has vested interest. I could be wrong, but go on.
No, well, I have read that he does have financial interest in renewable. But anyway.
All right, keep going.
Through that right now. But the point being is, they can't all be that stupid. So the point is there's got to be some bigger story of corruption here to keep pushing this because of financial interests that are involved.
Has to be.
See, any other reason. There's no other possible... Nothing else makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not suggesting that the people you mentioned have in any way got involved in corruption. But what I'm mentioning, what I'm agreeing with you with, is that this is a fallacy, not based on science, to make sure that people's pockets get very, very full.
Well, it has to be, because they clearly do not want to damage the vested interests that have got significant, from all the way from the manufacturer from the China, which would include the CCP, because they all own at least half of Chinese manufacturers and businesses.
Okay, let me jump in before you go any further. You mentioned about Matt Keane. I didn't know that he had financial interest in renewable energy, but he has. You are right. Matt Keane holds financial and professional interests in the renewable energy and climate sector through his role at the private climate investment firm Wallamai Capital. Spot on, Pete.
So how can he possibly be independent as a supposed... it's just... I can't understand the amount of vested interests that are involved in the policy area of climate change, the Department of Climate Change, etc., and all that other garbage, it's rife.
It's going to bring this country to its economic knees if it hasn't done so already.
Well, all I can say is, hopefully, if we get, a One Nation / LNP, whatever coalition ends up becoming next government, they've got to have a royal commission into this whole debacle.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I couldn't agree more. Of all the things that are running in our society now, it's a royal commission required on the climate change scam. I'm right with you, Peter. Thank you very much for that. Yes, we are warming, but to go about it and think that you can have windmills and solar panels and subsidies and taxes to change the temperature is a complete and utter fallacy. We'll take a break and come back shortly. So, who let the dogs out? Apparently, the pub did. Yes, there's a new dog-friendly pop-up opening in Sydney at the Newtown Hotel, and it's basically a pub for you and your pooch. Yeah, an entire pub designed for you and your dog. The 3-week Doghouse pop-up is being launched as part of International Dog Month, and tomorrow is International Dog Day, with kennel-inspired decorations, giant dog toys, a human-sized kennel for photos, and even a giant treat dispenser. Although, disappointingly, the treats are for humans. The dogs won't be happy with that. Mine won't be. There'll be yappy hour, quiz nights, themed events and free dog meals every Wednesday when you buy a main meal. So it's on today. There'll even be free grooming sessions. So essentially you go to the pub, your dog goes to the pub with you, you have a beer, the pooch has something more appropriate, and everyone has a great time. And it got us thinking here, how far do we take our dogs nowadays? They go everywhere, don't they? Although I haven't seen a dog on a bus yet. Have you seen a dog on a bus? Apart from, dogs for the blind, I've never seen a dog, a normal pet on a bus. I don't think you're allowed. But I now take my dog everywhere just to keep him active and entertained so he's not sitting at home snoring. I take my dog to Bunnings. He loves the sausage sandwich, let me tell you. I don't take him on public transport. I take him. There's a particular restaurants that have alfresco areas that I take him to, and I try and sit at the end of those alfresco areas. Not for anything other than some people might be uncomfortable. Are you uncomfortable with a dog being at an alfresco area at a cafe or restaurant? Some people are, and I get that. especially non-dog people. We take our dog on holidays, yes. Obviously holiday-friendly places to stay at. We went camping last Christmas and we took the dog on a holiday. Yeah. He was able to be housed in dog-friendly holiday camp spots. It was great. I take my dog, occasionally to the shops. You can take your dog to the pubs, especially the one in Newtown. So where are the places you've seen dogs that you think to yourself, no, that's crossing the line, I don't want to take my dog there? And where do you now take your dogs that you never have taken your dog before? Have we crossed the line a little bit in terms of bringing our dogs everywhere? Some people might agree with that. So dog people, you can defend yourselves with all of that. Non-dog people or cat people, can you tell us where the line should be drawn? And where would you take your dog? Now, if you train your dog well in terms of wheeze, you can take your dog to work. And Taco comes to work almost every week. He didn't want to come yesterday. It was very cold yesterday morning, and he turned around and went back into his little bed. He said, no. I'm not jumping in the car, thank you. I know where we're going. I'm not interested today. So he just went back. But you might take your dog to work as well, and maybe you have an outdoor area where the dog can run around. That's always good. We sort of have a long corridor here at 2SM, so we throw the ball from one end of the corridor to the other during news breaks, and Taco goes for a run and stuff like that. So that's what it goes. It's interesting where we take dogs nowadays. So where do you take your dog, and where should we not take our dogs? Give us a call. What a song that is. What a song that is. But very appropriate for our discussion. We're going to have that discussion after a quick break. We'll hear from you, 13 12 69, 13 12 69. Where's the line in terms of taking dogs somewhere in our community? Because if you think about how far they are allowed to go now, that will only increase. There'll be other places where dog owners will say, why can't I take my dog there? And there are other places that will say, no, we don't want dogs in this place. If your dog's in order in terms of its behaviour and it's not angry and it knows when to wee and when not to wee, what's your problem? Diane, what's happening?
Thank you, Chris. The Anti-Semitism Royal Commission will not be extended despite calls for the inquiry to go longer. Gambling reforms have been announced in New South Wales, and Mark McVeigh has been unveiled as the new coach of Essendon. We'll have those stories and more at the top of the hour.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, here we go. Who let the dogs out? Toby in Casino. Hi, Toby.
Good afternoon. Good morning, sis. How are you, mate?
It's Chris, yeah. Toby, good to have you on from Casino.
Yeah, first time caller, mate.
Great to have you on. Go ahead.
Yep. You got one of the best programs I ever listened to. I got my toe taken off and I broke my hip. I did that 5 to 9 every morning, 10 hours on listen to you.
Oh, you make an appointment to listen to the program?
Program. You are fantastic, mate. You are really, really good.
Thank you very much.
I had my 85th birthday a couple of days ago, so I'm 85.
Happy birthday to you, Toby. 85 and going strong.
Yeah, I'm done with it. I too cutting firewood, all that.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. Now,
yeah. I
got one of the best border collies I think I ever had in a dog. I had a few dogs, but my border collie, mate, I'm married to a Filipino, and she go out to a garden, and you know what he do?
What?
He look at her, and she pointed it down, and he dig a hole to put the plants in.
Dig a hole to put the plants in?
Yep. And that fair dinky die, not a bullshit, mate, a fair dinky die.
He plants, he digs holes for planting flowers and stuff.
Yeah, Filipino, it's what dipping plants and things,
but the border collie we know is an intelligent canine, isn't he? Or she? He.
But I got his sex done.
Uh-huh.
He'd been jumping the fence and down, having to, what? And I ended up getting incarcerated.
All right. He's an escapologist, so you neutered him, and now he's well behaved?
He's fantastic, mate. He come here every morning. We let him in. He come and sit beside me while I have my cup of coffee or a sandwich or something. And he'll look at you. And I give him, unknown to Mary, my wife, I give him 2 or 3 bits to eat.
Toby, you're a cracker. Happy birthday for the other day. 85 and going strong. And thank you for your kind words too.
Thank you. No, you do a fantastic job, mate. I'm really happy with your way you talk and way you go on, and you give everybody a say.
Good on you. Thank you, Toby. Except for that clown that rang earlier. Marg in the Gold Coast. Hi, Marg.
Oh, good morning, Chris. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Right. Look, I have the most, or my son had the most amazing blue heeler. He was a builder and he was working at Cronulla. Oh, beg your pardon. He lived at Cronulla but working at Bundeena.
Yeah.
He would catch the ferry with his dog, but also too, even though Shane wasn't working there and he'd finished his job there, the dog would go down, sit and wait for the ferry. As soon as it pulled up, he'd push in front of everyone and just hop on the ferry himself.
Oh, how good. Tell me, so no one's pulled him up and said you can't get on the ferry with your dog?
No, not at all.
So it must be okay to take dogs on ferries?
Well, maybe it was back then, and I'm going back probably 30-odd years now. But also this same dog was on another first day at Annandale, and anyway, come the afternoon, the dog hadn't returned, so Shane left his water and food and everything else there. And 3 days later, or 3.5 days later, he rocked up at St. Susie at his girlfriend's place.
Oh, really?
He had walked from Annandale to Susie.
Go away!
Oh, yeah. He was the most amazing...
That's one hell of a nose.
Oh, yeah.
Mark, thank you very much. Annandale to St. Susie. That's an amazing trip. How does a dog do that? Do they smell where they've got to go, or do they just remember their own smell where they went? But I don't get that. That's amazing. Richard in the Tweed. Hi, Richard.
Chris, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Yeah, it's good. Look, the story I've got about a 15, 16-week-old Groodle.
Yeah.
And my mother-in-law went into a nursing home and she passed away about a fortnight ago. But while she was in the nursing home, we could take the dog. And then when she passed away, we were allowed to take him into the funeral home as well. So he could say goodbye to her.
Oh.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I asked the lady that was conducting the service. She said, look, not a problem. And he was so well behaved for a pup. He must have known there was something going on, I think.
Let me guess that the dog knew that your mother was in the funeral home.
Chances are, yep.
Yeah, chances are they do, you know?
Yeah. He's great. Like, we take him to Bunnings. We were in Bunnings yesterday, and I've got a little autistic grandson.
Yep.
And he's a bit wary, but they're getting on all right. And there's a younger one as well. He's in the crawling stage, and I'm pretty sure the dog thinks that little Eli's another dog.
He's got a mate.
He tries to play with him on the floor. Yeah.
That's great. And the nursing home doesn't have a problem with you bringing the dog in?
No, you can take them. And I guess there's a lot of people in there that have had dogs.
Yeah. Well, they're wonderful companions, aren't they? Especially for older people.
Well, you can't have a dog there full time, but you can take dogs into see them, which is great, you know. And like they love dogs. Yeah.
Wow, how good's that? Richard, great story. Thank you very much for telling us about that. Paul, go ahead.
How are you, mate?
Good, thanks.
Glory.
Yeah, same here. If we beat the Titans, I reckon we're in.
Well, I reckon the next two games.
You reckon we can beat the Roosters too?
Well, mate, if West can do it.
Oh, I don't know. We'll see. They're a pretty slick side this year, those Roosters.
Yeah, well, they didn't prove it yesterday.
No. On Sunday, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, my beef isn't about people that have dogs that look after them. It's the fact that people, all of a sudden, in the last few years, want to take their dogs in shopping trolleys while they're doing their shopping.
Yeah. What's that about? You want to walk your dog, don't you?
Yeah, but, you know, people have got to put food in them trolleys.
Yeah, there's that too.
You know, that's my beef.
Yeah, that's a good beef. I, as a dog lover, that's a decent beef.
You know, I mean, I love dogs. I despise cats, but that's beside. You know, but for people that want to walk around doing their shopping with a dog sitting in there, you know.
Yeah, nah. I'm with you, Paul. Even as a dog lover, I'm with you. That crosses the line. You've been the first to raise a good crossed line there. Get the dog to walk as well. The dog could do with a good walk.
Well, exactly. You know, because somebody next comes up, puts their food in there.
Yes, veggies or something. Yes.
It doesn't matter how clean you keep your dog. It's still a dog.
Yeah, very true. Paul, thank you, and good luck on the weekend.
No worries, mate. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. Steve, tell me about dogs.
Hello, Chris. Yes, mate. I've had dogs practically all my life. When my kids were young, I used to take them down to watch the soccer, cricket. Now, my latest bad incident was at a cricket. My grandson. We're out far out away from the boundary, about a good 30, 40 metres off from the boundary. Well, I was walking him around the back edges of the oval, and the ball comes flying over, and I thought, oh, no. And I had the dog off, just for that moment, I had the dog off the leash. And what happens, he's gone for the ball. I'm yelling and screaming, no, put it. He was pretty obedient. If I tell him to come back, he'll come back.
Oh, good.
And sure enough, he's come running back to me with the ball in his mouth and chomping on it at the same time. And what happened? They had to replace the ball because of all the teeth marks in it.
Yes, save the ball, but he didn't save the game. All right, that's a place where dogs shouldn't be, which is close to the boundary, right?
Yeah.
Good story, thank you, Steve. Janelle, tell me about your dog.
It's not about my dog. I adore your laughter.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Every day, Friday.
Thank you.
I want to tell you a story, and it's true. There's up in the northern New South Wales, from Byron Bay to the Tweed.
Yeah.
There's a bus that goes around with a big white school bus. It's called the Doggy School Bus.
The Doggy School Bus.
They're all in seat belts.
The dogs?
Yeah, the dogs are in seat belts and in braces. There's little duck hounds and golden retrievers.
Where are they going? They're not going shopping.
No, they're in the school bus. It's called the Doggy School Bus.
So they go with the kids to school?
No.
Oh, I'm confused.
School bus. Right. 2 women set up a business in Byron Bay called the Doggy School Bus. And so it's a really big bus, like a school bus, and they babysit the dogs.
Oh.
You got the picture?
Got the picture.
And they're all hanging out the windows, little noses out. They're in seat belts and leashes. It's a true story.
This is great.
And laugh. They go between Byron Bay, Billynudgel, Brunswick Heads, a little bit further. So they're having a day out. It's a big white bus, and on the side, big black typology, typo, Doggy School Bus.
It's the best. What a great thing. So their owners are at work or something or busy, and the dogs are looked after and cared for, not just walk like most dog owners might get done, but in a school bus and enjoying themselves with their silly little noses out the window.
Yes, their little heads out the window with their seatbelts on and their braces and their collars, little duck hounds, golden retrievers.
How good.
There's probably about 20 of them a day.
Oh, that is just the best. Has the local television station done a story on this?
Oh, I wish. No.
Oh, they should. What a great picture story.
Oh, it would be.
Yeah, great. Good on you, Janelle. Thank you. Thank you for your kind words as well. Must take a break. I've got carried away with doggies. Yeah, thank you, Johnny. Let's go to George in Newcastle. Morning, George.
Morning, Chris. 60 years ago, Chris, my older brother took me for a walk on a summer's day along the foreshore of Botany Bay, and we were behind the old Bunurong power station.
Yeah.
And it let the water out into Botany Bay, and it used to come rushing out, and it'd cut a big channel, take the sand away. It was like a river gushing out. We're walking along the edge of it. Well, we had a big chocolate Labrador, and his name was Lumpy. and he was the biggest, strongest Labrador. And anyway, he's with us. My brother, elder brother, he was 7. I was about 4. The sandbank gave way. My brother's been taken into the rip, and he couldn't swim. Swim, and I watched him getting dragged out with his arms in the air, and I'm about to watch my brother die. And with his screaming, Lumpy, his ears have pricked and looked, and Lumpy, the chocolate Labrador, dove into the water, swam out about 200 metres to my brother, and my brother was at the end of his tether. He grabbed Lumpy's tail, and because Lumpy was a big, powerful dog, he pulled my brother back to shore.
Get out of here.
No, Lumpy. Lumpy, the chocolate Labrador, saved my brother's life in a big rip.
At that point, when he looked, ears pricked, could see the yelling, could see him, he made a decision, I've got to go and save him. What an incredible thing for a dog to do.
He done it, and that's gospel, Chris. And
then towing him back by the tail wouldn't have been a comfortable thing, but he was prepared to do it to save him.
Yes, that's right. And luckily, he was a big dog, had a bit of flotation, and strong.
Yeah, wow, that's a story and a half.
There's no way I could have done it. Lumpy, the lifesaver.
How many times have you told that story? 1 million?
Well, I do. I bring it up on the odd occasion.
Yeah.
I have told the story,
Yeah.
and people are enthralled with it, and so happy to hear such a wonderful outcome.
Outstanding, George. Thank you very much for relaying that incredible story on International Dog Month, soon to be International Dog Day. Good on you.
Thank you.
That's a story and a half. Unbelievable. Now, I can go back to Gretel now, which is the first caller I had on the board, but I didn't get to. Hi, Gretel.
I'm fine, thanks.
Oh, good. I didn't ask that, but I'm glad. Now, listen, tell me something. Tell me your dog story.
Just that was my way of getting over nerves on the air.
Oh, that's okay. No problem. Go ahead.
What it is, I've seen it in 2 countries. I've seen it in England and here. Prams, which are especially made for dogs.
Dog prams, yes.
Yeah, dog prams, and people put their dogs in prams, and they turn it on public transport instead of they wheel them around in prams the same as a baby.
Well, I've seen that in human prams where the dog is the one in the pram and not the baby.
Yeah, so I've seen it in England, and I saw one last week when I was paying my rates in Armadale.
Right.
This lady had her dog in a pram with seatbelts on.
That's good. Hey, listen, have you got a dog, Gretel, or you've had dogs?
Well, I'm a cat person.
Yeah, right.
The reason why I got turned off dogs is because we had a dachshund when I was young, and it was really savage thing. And as a child, it beat me straight through to the bone on my hand.
Oh.
And I just got turned off dogs after that. If you touched his collar, it used to just turn around and really bite you like.
Oh, no, you don't want dogs to do that. No wonder you became a cat woman. Have you got a cat now?
Yes.
What's its name?
Elena.
Elena. I hope you're listening, Elena. Thank you, Gretel. Great to have you on the program. Thank you for your call.
Okay.
Thank you. There you go. Just a reminder again, for Father's Day, you can still get in now if you go to the merchandise link on 2sm.com for our fantastic merchandise, which is almost cost price, I'll tell you. The umbrellas, the beach towels, and the retro T-shirts.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end it's right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Thank you for all those dog calls. We're going to do a little segment on dogs again tomorrow, just on the vet angle of dogs. Healthy dogs, unhealthy dogs, all of that. So make sure you're listening.
It's something unpredictable, but in the end is right. I hope you had the time of your life.
Might have to bring Taco tomorrow, irrespective of his reticence. You enjoy your afternoon. We'll do it again at the same time tomorrow on the Castle of Common Sense.